So I didn't know at whatever point that I would have to be making this video, but yeah, I think now is probably the best time. So if you are interested in Splitgate or you haven't heard, then of course you're probably gonna be either clicking off this video or um you haven't heard that Splitgate is ending development again. So I have sort of been anticipating this. Quite a few of us actually have. Primarily because 1047 just wasn't very vocal after starting Impulse. And it's a little bit of a disappointment because they had a relatively good foundation with Splitgate. But the moment they started Impulse, uh, it all kind of went downhill. Now, they put out a formal statement about ending development of both games. But as a upside is they're both going peer-to-peer. They'll no longer be dedicated servers. So if you're wanting to play the game, you can still play it just at limited links. But my biggest issue here is that all of this could have been avoided. And I say this because Splitgate is very much so treated like Destiny was. Now, if you guys want to hear more my full thoughts and etc., I would highly recommend going over to the SGA podcast that I do with Code Phoenix and Yurgi. Our latest episode was last week, I believe, and we talked a lot about this. So if you want to hear more thoughts and, kind of like a collective opinion about it, you can go over there and, have a watch and listen to the background. But I compare it a lot to, or I compare 1047 a lot to Bungie because it's quite literally the same situation. Bungie had Destiny and Splitgate, or sorry, 1047 had Splitgate. Bungie starts Marathon, while Destiny's in a bad spot, and 1047 starts Impulse when Splitgate's in a bad spot. The only difference between the things are, it's safe to say Destiny had a massive community behind it. Meanwhile, Splitgate was still growing. To be fair, Splitgate never even got out of the womb to even do its own thing, more or less, take its first steps. It doesn't make sense to me. And again, I want to redirect this apology thing here because at the end of it, they say, "We are sorry." Unfortunately, I think we are beyond the point of apologies. First off, you have abandoned not only one game, but two games. And second of all, you could have pulled this band-aid off much earlier than intended. Because we've known that this is probably the end of either one or two games, and this is the end of both games as a result. You could have kept Impulse around. You could have either kept Splitgate around. But no, you killed both games simultaneously. And I think I have forgiven Ian enough when it comes down to Splitgate as a whole. From the Game Awards to the way he, continued to say misstep after misstep and just, fumbling the market time and time again and just never been able to pull his own weight. Yeah, sure, I don't know what goes on internally, right? But at the same time, you are the CEO. You are the one that everyone is going to point towards when something goes wrong. And I know Nicholas is also another big portion of the company, but at the same time, he is not the face of 1047 as much as Ian is. He could be at fault, don't get me wrong. But if Ian is going to be the face of 1047, then that's who I am going to talk to. I think every apology going forward is not enough. There is probably nothing that can probably make the community forgive Ian for doing such things. It's been a long time coming since I started playing Splitgate. So much so that I am part of the Hall of Fame. It's not something I brag about by any means, but I think it's worth noting, showing how much effort I put into Splitgate before Splitgate 2. Because when Splitgate 1's map creator came out, that's where I picked up the game, more or less. And then from that point on, I created maps for the community. I did maps for tournaments. I did a lot of things for the community. And I hoped that I could continue to push that into Splitgate 2 once it got into a good position. That I can continue to support the community. I can continue to support players and giving them content and so on and so forth. But obviously, if that is going to continue, I would need modding tools or something to be able to handle a lot of, the way that they want to leave this game as. But unfortunately, we don't know what's next for 1047 as a whole. They say they are going to continue making games, but at this rate, I do not believe that. And I say that because, obviously, the revenue from Splitgate and the revenue from Impulse is not enough. So, what are you going to be doing? You're taking the servers offline to cut budget from Splitgate and Impulse, swapping them to peer-to-peer, and then you're going to develop what? Some other thing that we're going to have to pay another $20 for yet another cash grab? I don't know. It doesn't make sense to me. If you are going to try and pull your head out of your asses to make another game, just continue Splitgate. That is all you need to do. It's cut and dry. I don't think there's anything else I need to explain about continuing Splitgate. Your community has wanted you to continue Splitgate. Impulse, you started Impulse way too early. So much so that Impulse is already in development, from what we know, when Arena Royale was, being relaunched. So, if you want your next goal, if it isn't going to be another game and you don't want to do another game, just continue Splitgate. As of right now, I don't know what we are going to plan with the SJ podcast. We might rebrand it into, a basic, gaming podcast, but as of right now, don't know if we're going to be doing any more content Splitgate related, especially here on this channel. I'm not going to cover Splitgate anymore. So yeah, I think that's where I'm going to go ahead and cut it. Rant over. I think the only thing I want to say before ending this video is thank you to the devs that have developed Splitgate. I've met quite a few of you, from Sam Malone to Garrett, and pretty much everyone who was also a face for Splitgate. You guys have done a banging job on Splitgate, as well as Impulse as well. I know there's been a lot of you that have also worked on Impulse as a result. And I do think that Impulse is at least something to cheer for. I watched Jay Bowenman's video on the situation as well some time ago, and he was fairly impressed. For as rushed as Impulse was, it was still a relatively good game. And I think that is worth mentioning, you know, like these games aren't made by developers with no soul. This isn't like the Call of Duty that you see every year. Um, there is quite a bit of passion that goes into actually making these games feel the way they do, especially Splitgate with how much charm it has in terms of weapon animations and just the art style. So, yeah, thank you, devs, for everything that you've done, whether or not that's level design, programming, you know, art, UI, everything within that category. All right, well, that's it from me. So I will talk to y'all later. Adios.